I spent Sabbath morning, or what they call Sabbath morning, with Yellow Deli. Apparently these guys, they are in all these different places, which, that's cool. But I believe that many of these last day camps and communes, let me tell you a little something about the Judas goat. Now, Esau was called a hairy goat. He lived at Mount Seir, which literally means hairy goat. Now, that's not to say that Esau were not considered children of the Most High, Abraham, because they did come to the Messiah at the due time. However, Esau also sold his birthright for a bowl of lentils. So you will find many Edomites doing this. Now, I have noticed with these kinds of places that oftentimes it feels as if, like the Judas goat, they are trying to reel in the sheep of God in order to lead them to the slaughter. Now, one of the things that the Messiah does, he asks questions. He asks questions to find out where people are at. He asks questions to make people think. Well, I had to ask some questions because I don't trust any place that is saying we are it and continually points you to their camp, their commune, their church, but never points you to the Father. I also find it interesting with these communes, a lot of times they will put unity above everything else. Now that sounds really good until you start to ask them questions like, well, the Messiah came with a sword, and that was to divide the children from the fathers, the mothers from the children, all that. Why? Because they were disobedient. And so I feel like that division basically is concerning separate from your brothers and sisters so that you can minister onto me, so that you will know what the truth is, and the truth will set you free. And when you have raised the Father above everything else around you, unity will just naturally follow and flow. But it's like people try to do the opposite. They try to put unity first and then the Father second. So this is what happens with a lot of these communes, and it builds this thought process in your mind that if I don't do everything for the commune, the community, in order to retain unity, then I'm going to be considered a devil. I'm going to be kicked out. I'm going to be wrong in the Father's eyes. But the fact of the matter is, what comes first is the Father. And if the Father's like, look, I want you to tell these people this, this, and this, and it's going to cause disunity, because the Father is responsible for dividing the sheep and putting them together, not us. All right? When He is going to gather us, that is when we're going to be together. But who is He going to gather? My guess is He's going to try to gather everyone, but people who don't really want to follow in spirit and in truth, they're not going to come. They're going to die off in the desert, just like the Israelites did. So don't trust folks that are putting unity as if it is the Father. Now, the other thing that I don't really trust with these communes, other than them saying things like, hey, look, listen to us, we have your best interest in mind. Because one place that I went to, they were like trying to tell me not to read a book. I forgot which book it was, the book of Melchizedek, I think. And while I do think there's people out there that care about your salvation and don't want you to read something that might cause you confusion, there's also people out there that want to just control what you read and what you don't, because just like the Catholics burned all the books of the Latino Americans, or rather Native Americans, it's the same thing. We don't want you to have too much knowledge because we want to have control over you. So when these people start coming to you and telling you doctrines that don't necessarily match with the scriptures or even with the extra biblical text in spirit and in truth, then you'll go against them. And the fact of the matter is, the rain is going to fall the more people that know the truth. That's why they constantly keep you thinking, no, we're not supposed to keep the law. No, we're just supposed to be in unity, and anyone who steps outside of unity is not in God's favor. And then what they do is try to make those who actually are sent by God look a certain way. So, I was kind of questioning what they were saying, because why do you feel as if people who are not in your congregation or in your commune are not doing the will of God because the Father is sending them everywhere? One dude tried to convince me that I was just doing whatever I wanted to do, and I'm like, well, how is that so, when I sat with a lady for 8 months? I didn't send myself there, and after the 8 months she became a believer again. You're trying to say the Father doesn't send people after the lost sheep, that he just wants us to stay in a commune? What are you doing? So the Catholic Church, there's this movie called The Priest, and basically the Catholic Church takes over, and they had raised up fighters in the name of Yahweh, or rather their God, and they were able to fight, with the spiritual warfare armors, and they unalived all these demons and all that kind of stuff. And so, I don't know if you can really unalive demons, but you can cause them to flee. So, they were really great warriors concerning this. The Catholic Church, however, did not want these warriors to go outside the confines of the city. But one man, who's, I think it was his cousin or something, she got kidnapped by vampires. And so he's like, well, isn't the point of Messiah to go outside the church and go recover the lost? And so I was trying to tell them this. Like, I think there is a place for being in a commune. Perhaps you're tired, whatever. But at the same time, they were saying things like, well, you can't heal out there in the world. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've healed out in the world because the Father has literally told me how to heal and healed me. So, they say little things like that. I told them, I'm like, look, there's people out here at Walmart, there's people out here in the street, there's people everywhere that the Father sends his people to in order to recover them. In fact, I was recovered all the way in New Zealand by a random Christian that happened to be staying at the house at night. But was it random? And did he actually happen to be staying at the house that night? No, the Father did that on purpose. So, be careful, all right? They tried to say, well, how are you supposed to tell the good ones from the wicked ones? Read, number 1, commune with the Father. Number 2, read your Bible. Read the extra biblical text. Pray for discernment. Lift up your head for understanding. That's how you know who's real or fake. They'll try to convince you the real ones are the fake ones and the fake ones are the real ones because they're up to no good. So, understand that these things are happening right now as I speak. They are trying to deceive even the elect. I'm bewildered because I didn't know that the deception ran this deep. I didn't know that, but now I know. It's very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. Because you initially don't at first know who's who and what's what. But now I'm starting to understand. You guys, you need to stick to the Father more than ever at this time, because there's so many deceivers out here. They look like sheep, but they speak like a dragon, okay? Satan comes as an angel of light. He looks like a lamb, speaks like a dragon. So don't be deceived out here, y'all.